Right. Hey, everybody. How are you doing? Gonna sit here for 1 more minute, 2 more minutes. Let everybody come online. If you're here, say hey. Let me hear from you. So I am seeing more people submitting work, and that's a beautiful thing. I'm available for tutoring. I know we have one task exam tomorrow, and then not again until January. We don't have a date set for January because the task becomes the GED. We have no idea what that's going to look like, even. I don't know. I do want to say this because you're out here. I don't get to see you. Half of you I've never even met. I hate that. But I got another call today from a participant who was diagnosed with COVID. A lot of you all are young. That counts for you. You may have other things that'll count against you, and it's a game you don't really want to play. We're getting ready to move into a season, y'all, that I don't want to see it. Please go get, if you haven't gotten that first shot, get it for yourself, get it for those you love, get it for your circle, your mama, your grandmama, your babies, and most important, get it for you. Get it for you. I'm done. I like to preach. I know. I'm through. Today is January. Today is December 9th. It's a Thursday. As I stated a second ago, we are task testing tomorrow. It is the last task test before it converts back to the GED. We don't know nothing. We've been given no information. We don't know what it's going to look like. We're thinking parts of it may be easier, parts may be harder, but we can't say. If I were you, I wouldn't take that to the bank at all. It's going to be a different test. We just don't know how. We haven't been given study materials. So when we know, you'll know. But as I said, the last test is tomorrow. So nothing is going to be live, no classes. I'm still thinking about how I'm going to get back to social studies. I'm working on it. Or if anyone wants tutoring in social studies, if anybody wants an in-person class in social studies once a week, holler at your girl. Let me know something, okay? That's an easier part of the test, but if anybody needs that little extra, let me know. So I'm here. So we're back in science. If you've been here since about last year at this time, we've come full circle. So this lesson today is a lesson that you can find in classroom if you go back, I think back to April. You'll actually have two lessons. Sorry to tell you, it's the same lesson. I've simplified it as best I could. Um, it's about photosynthesis, and there are some very technical terms that you have to know about it. Nope, that's not what I want you to look at. This is what I wanted you to look at, this little picture here. Let me share that, share my picture. And yeah, so in plant biology, photosynthesis is where light energy from the sun is converted into um, plant energy that they can actually use as food. And during this process, um, oxygen is released. So they are taking in carbon dioxide, energy from the sun, and release oxygen. Glucose is stored in the leaves, which is not just food for the plant, but it is food for most animals on the earth, whether we're talking about those little one-celled animals, or whether, oops, I did not mean to do that, or whether we're talking about human animals. Forgive my fooling around today, trying to play and stuff. I have no business. So we're going to talk about photosynthesis and how that works. So we're going to look at the parts of the plant. We're going to talk a little bit about chemistry, tiny little bit. There's some, as I said, some technical words that you got to learn, and I'm going to take you through it, okay? So let's look at this page I have here. What is photosynthesis? Okay. Is there any way, looking to see if there's a way that I could make this bigger. But by the time you finish this lesson, I want you to understand what photosynthesis is. So I'm scooting around. So let me go back here because I want to make this one thing clear. This lesson is about how photosynthesis converts light energy into stored chemical energy. And we use that stored chemical energy as food. The plant uses it as food, and we use it as food. So, the enduring question, or what I want you to remember for the science portion of your GED test, or task if it's tomorrow, is how does a plant get the food it needs to survive? All right, let's go back. While I'm on here, before I flip back over, I want you to see something. So I'm going to go through this sheet that I've made up. I think there are 4 questions for you to answer. And I've also attached, because I know y'all love the Amoeba Sisters. Jessica told me so. So this is another YouTube photosynthesis with the Amoeba Sisters. It is only about 5 or 6 minutes. After you've gone through this lesson, for a deeper understanding, take a look at this photosynthesis video. I find those other aids, learning aids, to help us when we're working with technical information, to kind of help us absorb and organize this information so that we can better learn it. So that's all on that. Let's take a look at our lesson today. Science, what is photosynthesis? So the first question is, how does a plant get the food it needs to survive? Plants are producers. They're also known as autotrophs. Notice that I highlighted the word autotroph. And off to the right margin, I have put a definition. If we break down this word autotroph, I'm going to do that and split that word because it's a compound word, auto and troph. And the word auto means self or same. Now, if you were to talk about an automobile or a car, it can move itself, right? Automatically. So an autotroph is an organism that can make or produce its own food. We cannot do that. We cannot do that. We have to find our food from other living things, right? So plants are the type of autotroph that get their energy from the sun and turn it into organic compounds, or compounds that are from hydrogen, oxygen, carbon. Those are considered organic elements. Using the energy from the sun, they make complex compounds from simple inorganic molecules. So when a plant is planted in the dirt, those minerals that are in the soil are inorganic. They don't form the basis of life. So it changes it to something organic that the plant can use. So we think of all of these things happening together, and that they have to happen in order, in a certain way. It just makes me in awe of how life even happens, of how life even works. It's all miraculous. So through photosynthesis, a plant processes food. I'm sorry. It's the process plants use to make their own food. Food, which is that organic compound. We'll tell you what it is in a minute. From the sun's energy, carbon dioxide, and water. So plants are so important. We don't think of it as important. Some people mock people who are worried about the plants on trees on this planet. Something very important happens during photosynthesis that is vital to us having life and breath. So during photosynthesis, carbon dioxide, CO2, and water combine with energy from the sun to create glucose, which is a carbohydrate. And what? Here's the part that we have to have, and that is oxygen. Plants release oxygen. That is where our oxygen comes from. So, a carbohydrate, this is the carbohydrate. It's, as I told you, there's a little chemistry mixed in here, which is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, CHO6, and then just oxygen by itself. But altogether, that is a complex compound, which is a sugar. It is a sugar, it's a carbohydrate, which we have to have for a healthy, sustaining diet in order to maintain homeostasis or balance in our bodies, which sustains our life. Do you see now how in this life science unit that it's starting to build, right? It's called scaffolding. We're starting to connect the parts. So here we go with this little diagram. In the presence of sunlight, see our sun, plus carbon dioxide and water. So you have to have carbon dioxide, right? Sun, CO2, and water, H2O. You end up with glucose and oxygen. Okay? So what are we talking about here? What is glucose? Glucose is a sugar. It's the main product in photosynthesis, and it acts as the food source for plants. But if we are to eat that plant, we are taking in that carbohydrate which we need for our body as well. So the glucose in the plant, though, how it can't be stored as usable energy. So then to be able to store it in the plant, when the plant's just standing there in the field looking up to the sun, it has to be converted. It's converted into something called ATP. So what happens is that the oxygen formed during the photosynthesis is shed then after that. It's a waste product. Like when we eat, we release waste products, right? Liquid and solid. So during the plant's process called cellular respiration, and we're going to talk more about that. I am giving you definitions, okay? So a plant cell, let's just jump over here for 1 second, is referred to as a eukaryotic cell. So it's any organism that has a clearly defined nucleus. And the nucleus is like the brain of the cell. It has genetic information, which tells it that this is a corn plant, this is an oak tree, this is algae that grows in the ocean. Because we're talking about plants right now, right? But our cells have nuclei, plural for nucleus, as well, that contains the genetic material that gives directions. So, almost all organisms get their energy from photosynthetic organisms. For example, and watch this carefully, if a bird eats a caterpillar, then the bird gets the energy that the caterpillar gets from the plants it eats. So the bird indirectly gets energy that began with the energy formed during photosynthesis. What? Stop. Right? The glucose formed during photosynthesis is in the plant. The caterpillar eats the plant, the bird eats the caterpillar, and we may go on and eat the bird. You never know, right? And so we are getting that energy that is stored in all of those organisms. It's central to all life on earth, to sustaining our life. Plants are essential to our life. Okay. So in eukaryotic organisms within the plant, photosynthesis takes a place in the chloroplast. And these are cells that contain the green pigment. It's that green pigment. And that green pigment has a name. I'm looking to the right in my definitions I've added here for you. It's chlorophyll. And that's the pigment that gives plants their green color, and it helps them create their own food through photosynthesis. It's contained in chloroplasts, okay? So only cells with chloroplasts, we're talking about plant cells and algae or one-celled plants like that, can perform photosynthesis. And they have to have that green pigment, right? Animal cells and fungus don't have chloroplasts and cannot produce photosynthesis, right? And so that's why those organisms and other non photosynthetic protists or cellular organisms rely on other organisms to get their energy, like us. These organisms are called heterotrophs. Here's a definition: organisms that rely on other organisms to obtain their energy, such as humans, other animals, right? And non synthetic protists are called heterotroph. And hetero um, means two. You have to go outside, you have to go somewhere else, right? You got to go outside to get your energy source. All right, so here we go. And I wish, oh my goodness, that I could make this bigger, because this don't make no sense. Can you read it? I wish you could read that a little better. We've got the outer part of, say, of a stem, the cuticle, and then we got what's called the epidermis. Then we have the xylem, the guard cells, the cuticle, the very outside, the lower epidermis. Do you have to know all that? No. What would be important? I'm going to tell you to learn certain parts called the xylem, which is where water enters the plant, water or H2O. That's the chemical name of water. Hydrogen dioxide, two oxygen, di. Like if you have two dice, they're called di. Two, hydrogen dioxide enters the plant through its roots through a special plant tissue called the xylem. So we're looking down here in the stem, right? The water is coming through the soil up through the xylem. And then the xylem stem, right, inside of the stem, is carrying the water all the way up to the leaves. Almost done. Whew. The leaves have special cells structure called stomata. And what that stomata does is allow gas to come in, the carbon dioxide, which with sunlight helps to feed the leaf, right? So then there's some guard cells that surround the stoma, which they let the gas in, but they don't let water in to the leaf. So the stomata will also allow um, oxygen to come out. And so you have CO2 coming in, the plant's getting fed, it's turning minerals in the soil into matter that it can use, into carbon, into sugar, glucose. Then it's also passing out the waste, which is water, and it's a lot of water. And this is called transpiration. What is transpiration, Melody? It is the process in which water travels through the roots of the plant all the way up to the plant into the leaves, and then water is lost through the stoma. The guard cells contract and expand, right? Depending on what's going on. Are we letting in gas? Are we letting out gas? Are we bringing it in? Are we releasing it? And during the night, the stoma will close because without the sun, there's no demand for carbon dioxide or photosynthesis. So at night, the stoma are not working, okay? So what happens with different weather in transpiration? So if it's very humid and there's lots of moisture in the air, does the plant need to perspire to transpire as much? No, it doesn't. If it's a dry atmosphere, the plant's going to be transpiring more often, trying to get whatever water it can, whether it's in the soil, whether it's in the atmosphere. There's going to be a faster rate of transpiration. Okay. And so think about this. It's easier for water to evaporate into drier air than it is into humid air. And think about how we respirate, how we breathe. It's easier to breathe, right, in less humid air, in drier air than humid air. So warmer air also holds less moisture. So the transpiration will increase in higher temperatures. When the stomata, more than one stoma, right, are open, transpiration rates increase. When they close, transpiration rates decrease. And then at night, remember, they close and they're at rest. So here is the main thing to remember about this, that photosynthesis is the source of our lives because we obtain our food by eating plants, right? Okay, so here are 4 review questions that I'd want you to take a look at. Number 1, what are the ingredients used to make glucose for plants? Number 2, what is the name of the pigment that absorbs sunlight in plant cells? Number 3, what is the function of the xylem? Number 4, what causes stomata to open? And number 5, what causes the rate of transpiration to increase in a plant? I've also, at the end of this article, tacked on the vocabulary that we used during this article. So take a look at the vocabulary. Also, take a look at the video and then answer the questions. Anyone need help? You look here up on ABC Science, right below there, you'll see my name, my email, my cell, the office phone. You can also put any questions that you have. There will be a spot for questions after I post this lesson, which is going to be in about a minute. So that is all we have for today. I want you all to be safe. Please be safe and be well, be healthy. Do what you got to do. Protect your circle, protect yourself. That's it for today. Everyone, take care.